All right, so we're back on our API documentation page. Now, I just need to bring your attention towards something. Now, there are some API points that do not require parameters and some API points that do require parameters, as there's this one with the put method where you're going to edit the employee or where you're going to add the employee in the post method. You would have to enter these API parameters. So the syntax is there, everything's been given. All you'd have to do is make sure you enter everything in the right format and the font. So there are no errors that get returned when you are going to execute the API call. Now, there are some of them that do not require these at all, as you would see the delete protocol, the delete method. It does not require any API syntax, any API parameters. All it does is the API endpoint, the token, and you're simply going to execute it, and it's going to run the API call for you. Please note that any of these API calls, any of these methods, if they have asterisk in their format, in their text, you have to make sure you do enter them with the correct format, and the asterisk are to be there. Now, we've already discussed how we are going to extract the IDs of the elements or the objects that are listed on Humanity for which we are going to run the API call. Now, next thing we're going to learn is how to create an API token. To create an API token, this must be done through either a managerial account or by an administrator. What they would do is go to their Humanity settings page. Humanity settings page is the gear icon on the top right corner of the screen. They scroll down on the extreme bottom of the page, and they have the integrations listed over here, in which they have apps, API v2, data API, from which they pull up the API documentation. So here we are going to use the API v2. On the API v2, it is already giving you the prerequisites on which you're going to create the application and the name of the application you're going to create the API token for. As for example, I've created this one for MS Word. This time you can create it for your Humanity database or a software that you're going to use, maybe Slack, could be anything. So this particular page is only going to help you create your API tokens. Now, the redirect URL is the URL that you're going to enter if in case you want it to return to a specific page when you encounter an error. The group API access enables the API access to either your child accounts, or it restricts it to only the parent account. So let's say we are going to create a test API, and we do not want it to return to a URL, so we are going to leave it empty. We do not want to give access to any of the child accounts, we can leave it as no, but if we do, we can put it as yes, and we can save it. As soon as we do it, it's going to give you the app ID and the app secret ID. Now, these are more of like, you could say, your identification forms that can be detected with the MAC address on the back end. It has a registry, a badge number. So that is something which is over here, which you cannot edit. You may copy it if needed, but you would not be able to edit it. Next step, you are going to create a new token, which you're going to utilize in your API adapter. You just simply click new token, and it's going to appear for you. It will have a green dot over here, and it's going to let you know when is it going to expire. So you just simply copy this API token, and you're going to append that into your API documentation page over here, and you're going to execute your API call. Now, the syntax is over here. It does let you know that what are the things that you need to enter in the syntax. So for example, this one is going to be a delete employee endpoint. So it does let you know that it requires the ID for that employee that you're going to delete. But if you look a little below where it gives you the actual replacement of the values, after that, the full syntax also gives you something that says question mark access underscore token equals to XXX. So what you're going to do whenever you're going to execute your endpoint, you're going to use this. it already gives you a copy icon if you hover over it. So you can simply copy it, and you're going to replace these X's with the API token that you had just created, and you're going to copy it. Now, let's go towards our API adapter so we can execute some of the queries. Now, another thing that I had mentioned before, all these parameters have to go under body. So the ones that do require parameters, they do have syntax. You'd have to make sure that you do enter it under the body, and you would have to make sure that you select form data so it can edit it for you. You do bulk edit, and then you would be able to enter all of these syntax informations over here. So this one, body parameters, it goes into the body of the executable call. Now, the x-www-form-URL encoded is going to be used for only edits. So whenever you're going to use the put method, you are going to switch towards this one, x-www-form-URL encoded. For get, delete, post, you are going to use the form data. Now, when you're going to enter these things over here, you would have to ensure that you do it in the correct formats. All the formats are shown over here. But let's say if you're new to API, you do not know what should be the data parameter, you do not know how you're supposed to enter the data, you don't need to worry about it. All you'd have to do is simply enter the data over here, your endpoint, and rather than using the bulk edit, you're going to use the key value edit. What it does is it is going to manipulate the entered data into different formats which are acceptable for those API calls. So the key is going to be the name, and the value is going to be the name of the object. So for example, the key over here is we're going to enter the first name. So it's going to be fname, which is the format in which the first name should be entered, and it is recognized by our system. The value in it is going to be the name of that employee. So it's going to be Shane. Similar to this, you can keep on entering the values over here, and when you go over to bulk edit, it's already going to format that with a colon, a space, inverted comma, bracket, anything that needs to be entered over there, it will be formatted for you, so you do not have to do all the heavy lifting.